Did it start recording? No, it says recording pending. Yeah, now it started.
Okay, sir. So, very good morning to you all. I'm
So
very delighted to be
just
here.
hold on. We have to introduce you, Kashmira, now, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
And because now that it's a full recorded session, so we formally welcome Kashmira Pramanik, our own alumnus and a very, very proud student, back to your own campus, unfortunately in a virtual mode, to interact with us and on a title for which she was recently invited by the Pan IIT Foundation in UK to also deliver a talk. So to begin with a brief introduction, Kashmira hails from Bengal, as she herself writes, from a small rural town in Midnapur, along the banks of river Roopnarayan, right? Where she lived till the age of 5 and then spent rest of her childhood in the land of Tagore, Shantiniketan, because I believe her parents have been working at Shantiniketan. So actually, Kashmira has had a very strong influence of having birth in the land of philosophy, poetry, and different forms of art. Yet she pursued her career in science and technology, is what I must say. And cricket and visual arts were two things that she says she enjoyed the most during her growing up years. Trained as an architect at IIT Roorkee, she pursued her postgraduate studies in business and management at London Business School on scholarship and at Stanford University. Most of her career, she has worked in UK in data and analytics space. However, she is passionate about empowering people, organizations, and society through data driven decision making and process improvements. During her course of time in England, she got towards visual storytelling and filmmaking, directing and training photography, and finally filmmaking. In 2019, she pursued a 6 month filmmaking training at Met Film School, London, on full scholarship, and has recently finished her master's in screenwriting at Birkbeck College, University of London. She has written and directed two short films till now, one of which, The Mute, has won recognition and awards at a number of international film festivals, and the other, Red Fountain, is in final stages of post production. She is currently working on her third short film, Angel Fleet, to be shot in the summer of this year, and she has also joined work as data and analytics consultant with Wunderman Thompson Commerce, uh, which seems to be an important company, one of the leading advertising and e commerce consultancies of the world. And both in her personal and professional life, she's again reiterating that she's deeply interested in people. And that's what motivates her and inspires her every day of her life. And what she believes is that we need to cultivate arts, science, and philosophy with equal emphasis to evolve as complete human beings and to live with empathy and compassion and contribute to the society and to this planet. What better introduction to Kashmira than a script by her own self, which actually is echoing. So, as I'm reading, frankly speaking, it's a kind of reflection that what else is remaining, for a human to achieve if all this as qualities already exist, right? So, frankly speaking, I'm very proud to welcome our own earlier student. Now we are her students today to learn from her about her journey, about her perspectives, from various instances. And I also have the opportunity here to welcome many of our other PhD scholars, undergrad students, other alumni, and many others who have joined on our very quick invite, which was just sent out late night. And I also apologize for a spelling error on the bias, but I would take it as a positive that it was a bias that reflected that no matter how we spell it, we read bias as a bias, right? So that's an error that happened at our end, but I hope we can still go forward with that bias. and we
The
can.
thought is important, sir. Yeah, the thought is important. So it's totally fine.
No, it's actually, a takeaway. It's actually not an error. We live with bias like this. We continue to see the world in a particular way unless somebody opens their eyes. Oh no, this could be this as well, right? So I think without taking any further time, over to you, Kashmira, for your presentation, and followed by that, I would suggest and recommend that once she finishes her presentation, we do participate in interacting with her because that's also one of the key objectives of this whole thing while we listen to you and your exciting talk. Over to
Yeah.
you, Kashmir.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm very thankful for this opportunity. You considered me good enough to interact with the students. I'm really thankful for that, and I've always looked up to Raja sir. He has been more than my thesis guide. He is still an inspiration, and I am sure Sir Raja sir will continue to be my inspiration. Not because like he's an architect or he's a professor, but because of Sir's compassion, empathy, and generosity towards everyone. And that's my key takeaway from Sir whenever I think of Sir. And I'm very excited to be here. What I will do is I will present some slides just as point of reference, but I'll be talking through them. Whatever questions you have, I will suggest you put it. Please keep yourselves on mute so that it's just easier. You can put it. So if you agree, if people have questions, they can put it in the chat box, and we can scroll it once I have finished the presentation. Even ideas, it's not, or even things you don't agree with, and then we can have a discussion. And I don't think I'm a master of this topic I'm talking about. It's a journey for me as well. It's like uncovering those layers. It's like an onion. Like the more layers I uncover in myself or in things I see or interact with, the more the biases I understand in me or in others. So I will say this is a journey of all of us together, and I hope to keep in touch with you all and exchange ideas and works so that we can make this world a more equitable place, not only for women but also for men. Even the men will understand how there are biases which are not quite favorable to them also, or even for people of the third gender. So yeah, let's create an equitable world together, and I will share the screen. Just anyone, just let me know once you can see my screen so that I am sure. uh okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Not yet.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So there are five things I will go through. One is I will start with the history of my IIT admission. It's pretty well aligned to today's what we are talking about. Then I will take a few examples from design where there is an underlying bias. And by design, I don't mean only architecture or say graphic design. I will take examples from aerospace, mechanical, design, artificial intelligence. In design, I mean the broader sense of design. Then I will take a few anecdotes of gender bias in thinking, and then I will share with you a personal story of alternate thinking by going back to the 1950s from my own family. And then if time allows, we can do a couple of fun exercises, but it's not kind of mandatory we do that. I will rather have kind of discussion with you guys and understand your point of view. Okay, before I go any further, uh, let me clarify one thing. There again, this is something I found out later. There is a difference between gender and sex. This image I have taken from the Canadian Research Institute, so it's pretty well available on the internet. So sex is our biological construct we are born with, and gender is our identity, the identity we build for ourselves, and it is a social construct. So there is a slight difference. Now when I talk during my talk, though it is based on gender, but in certain cases like medical science, I will have to use the word sex and gender more interchangeably. I'm just pointing this out, you will see why. So yeah, and now let me share my my story of going and studying at IIT. So when I was born in a very small rural town in Midnapur. It's called Kolaghat, and it's very famous for its hilsa fishes. Now, when I was born, I was born as the only child of my parents. They were happy, but they were very scared that they are going to bring up their daughter in a patriarchal world, the world they have seen when they were growing up, and they had the fear that I will be at the receiving end of all kinds of gender based discrimination. So my parents got very determined that if they give me the highest level of education, I will be able to hold my fort, or reduce, if not totally eradicate, the discriminations I may face at my end. So basically, that was their logic, and they were very determined. They put in a lot of blood and sweat to make sure that I get proper education, and that was the reason of me studying at IIT Roorkee and at London Business School and at Stanford. The credit totally goes to my parents and also to my teachers, that they were kind enough to guide me during my time at all these universities. So yeah, you see like how a fear, a generational fear, can trigger certain decisions and determinations. I will say in my case, this was kind of a generational fear. Maybe my grandmother, grandfather had it, then my parents had it. Then for me, it's more probably reduced. But what I feel is I am very privileged. I have studied with the best professors, with the best students, and that has been possible because of the support I have received. What I feel I should do is make use of my life and make sure there is a more equitable world for others, not just me. Because yeah, otherwise the education my parents, my teachers gave me won't be complete. It will be just a qualification and just a degree, and I want it to be far more than that. So now, again, this is a boring bit. There are lots of definitions of bias. There were some definitions I was reading, like this is an unfair practice towards someone. Now I kind of like the first definition the most. Apologies, I took it from Investopedia, but it has nothing to do with my management studies. So I understand bias is an irrational assumption or belief that affects the ability to make a decision based on facts and evidence. Now this irrational assumption, which is not based on evidence or data, like I work in data, leads to unfair judgments or mistakes in judgment, be it professional life, personal life, social life. So yeah, bias is not itself the unfair practice. Again, according to me, it's that irrational assumption or belief which leads to unfair practices. You can find lots of definition of biases. Won't go into that. Now let's take some examples, some design and engineering examples from bias. You may be already aware, but there might be some you are not aware. I will start with the first one. Now, when I was a kid, I always used to think men have pockets and women don't, or they have purses. Now, when the mobile phone came into the market, uh, and I got my first mobile phone. My dad bought it very happily for me. I could not fit it into my pockets. Either my sartorial choices didn't have pockets, or the ones I had, but it didn't fit in, so I had to carry a different bag. Now, or I will forget the phone somewhere. Now for men, at least 99% of all men, or even 100% of all men as per statistics, have pockets in their pants until they are doing cross gender dressing. That's a different story. So and when the smartphone came into being, it became even more difficult. Like I see my mom forgetting my house smartphone here and there. So but my dad does not, because he wears track suits. So you see the way the ergonomics of this phone is designed. It is designed to fit in the hands of a man, better man of say 5 feet 10 inches or 6 feet, that kind of man. I'm not talking about someone who is 5 feet 2 inches, because it's actually designed for like a Caucasian, well-built man, and it fits well in the hands of a man compared to the woman. Plus, there is this, I will say, pocket politics. The way pocket has evolved in the fashion industry for women, it has been in many cases for aesthetics and ornamental purpose rather than something functional. Though it's evolving, and there are companies who are doing unisex clothing. So yes, there is progress happening, but this is something I have myself had difficulty with, and I have seen people have difficulty with. Next, I will move on to something I have often wondered. Like, I am a huge fan of going to museums and art galleries. The queues, say at British Museum or National Gallery, or in museums in Paris or Barcelona, they are long, the female queues, and the male queues, either there is no queue or it moves very fast. And I've often wondered, why is that the case? And it's same in commercial complexes and parks and all those places. And then I figured out what's the problem. Now, biologically, the bladder of women are smaller than a man. So we need to use the restroom more frequently. Plus, the average time needed to use the washroom for a woman is slightly more than a man because of a sitting posture. So if you see gender, it's 50% man and 50% woman, almost in this world, almost. But if you see this plan, this is kind of a standard public place, public restroom design. You will see men have more options and women have a lot less options, though women need to use the restroom more frequently and they take longer time. So that leads to a longer queue on the women's segment, even in the best of places. So yeah, I mean, maybe I wasn't a good student of architecture. I wasn't aware of this bias when I was studying at IIT Roorkee. So the fault is all mine. But now I have realized it and I felt like sharing with you all. Next, I will share something far more grim. Forget these fancy places like museums and all. In India, even now, 20 to 23% girls, children drop out of school because of lack of washroom facilities. I've taken this graph from 2007, 2008. Apologies, it's a bit old. Across the various states. Basically, this is from a research paper, my first research paper I published, which was primary school dropouts in India. And I was very fortunate to present it in Madrid in 2009, if I remember correctly. So I took the graph from my own research paper. So you can see the bars show the percentage of primary schools with toilet for girls. So yeah, you can see, and this is one of the major reasons of girls dropping out, and this is from public schools, not private schools. So this, we talk about empowering the girls with education, but we need to create that environment where it's possible for them to take education. So, and we have to do it a huge part through design, in my opinion. Next, I will move into public spaces like offices. I know all of you are students, but maybe many of you go to libraries or even malls. And I will talk about my personal experience of office. I've often felt a bit chilly in my office in London, and I blame my Bengali genes for it, because in Bengal, you see, the winter is not harsh. And then I did a bit of research and I figured out that the air conditioning or the temperature controlling device of these workplaces were designed in 1960s and 70s, and of course it has evolved since then, but it was designed for a 70 kg Caucasian male. And so we are carrying this legacy of thought in design, where it is designed for the male metabolism or male temperature, these workplaces. And what happens is productivity is less for women if you are feeling chilly or if you're not feeling comfortable. So with change of temperature which does not suit your body, you are less productive. So of course it's a loss to the workplace, but it's also a health and safety issue. I won't go into the details, you will find more. It can cause various health related issues for women. So yeah, I will say air conditioning design is a mechanical engineering, a field of mechanical engineering. So this is a personal example from that. Next, I will take something very recent, the COVID vaccination. Now, when all of us took the COVID jab, we were given this guidelines like, okay, you can have a mild fever or all these things. But none of these guidelines, at least in England, didn't mention that you may experience a change in the menstrual cycle even for a shorter period of time. And I'm giving you a statistics from early to 2021 when the vaccination came into place. At least 30,000 women reported a change in their menstrual cycle after taking the jab. So this was not something which was told from before. I'm not sure whether it was tested on women and whether these kinds of implications were thought about, discussed, experimented. Of course, as of now there isn't any major impact on health, but at least there is a short term impact, and women could have been made aware of that. So that didn't happen even in 2021, 2022. There will be more cases now, but I need to check the latest stats. I could not find any to share. So again, another thinking point, and from that I will go to something more serious in medical research. I have seen women in my social circle like have heart attacks, and many of them have sadly passed away very suddenly. And I have uh, thought before from reading from various articles that the body gives you sign of heart attack from before. And so, and I was wondering why is this the case, why there are people I know who have passed away so very suddenly. Now, the history, the if you go into the history of medical sciences, male body was the subject of most of the experiments and researches. So if you see this diagram here, sweating, chest pain, heartburn, vomiting, these are all male symptoms. A woman may have a symptom like a jaw pain, and the doctor may send you to the dentist rather than thinking like it can be a heart attack trigger. So women are still now at a far more risk of dying from a heart attack than a man, and it has nothing to do with the doctor's capability. If we are carrying this legacy of experiments and research where the symptoms are based on the male body, so that's what the doctors have studied during their training, and they are functioning based on that. So we need more data, we need more experiment in medical field on women to be aware of the symptoms women displays for various diseases. And yeah, so something to be aware of. So yeah, please with your friends, relatives, colleagues, if you see jaw pain or shortness of breath or chest discomfort, just a tightness, not even a chest pain or backache or fatigue, kind of I will suggest as a well wisher, do take it more seriously. And now I will go into the all fields of medical research. If you And also pharmacy. If you see this graph on the right hand side, except a few like gynecology, endocrinology, and behavioral psychology, most of the fields have been based on male subjects, and the most sexist in that way is neuroscience. The yes and no means, the no means if you see the percentage of articles, these are like research articles in medical science analyzed by sex. So if I talk about neuroscience or even immunology, it says no. If it means no, it means that they have been done only on male subjects primarily. So yeah, neuroscience is the most sexist in terms of medical discipline, in terms of the research and experimentation. And the reason is female, because women give birth to children, we have more variables. Now, to keep things simple from a research perspective, history decided it will take the male subject and continue the research, and that will lead to creation of medicines. So even the pharmacies, the medicines we take, they are more suited for the male body, not the female body. So yeah, something to be aware of. of except like gynecology and endocrinology. Endocrinology, the reason is again because we give birth to children, we have more hormonal variations. So history has taken into consideration in these two fields. But otherwise, from medicines to research, mostly it has been male subjects. Or even if I talk about rodents, they have been male rodents. So I think there is slightly things are changing, but something we need to be aware of and do more. And now I will also touch upon transgender, or better to call in a more respectful manner, the third gender. I just took this survey just from USA, and you can read. I will share the slides later on. You can read all these different questions. So the synopsis is, even in US in 2021, the people of the third gender are not treated with equal respect in their medical institutions if they're going for healthcare, and that kinds of creates a barrier. So you will see the kind of behavior, where, for example, if I read the first question, were treated with less respect than other people. So if you see, the transgender respondents is way more than the cisgender. By cisgender I mean who take the same gender with the sex they are born with. So you will see it's far more, and what it leads to is the people of the third gender are twice more likely to suffer from poor mental health, simply because of they are not receiving proper respect and proper health care. Because one, there is not enough research done on them in terms of, okay, what kind of medication or what are the variables we need to consider for people of third gender. And they are more prone to, I was reading somewhere, they are more prone to cardiac diseases, osteoporosis, uh, can't think of the others. Of course, mental health, and there are two or three more. You can find out more if you're interested. Next, go into something even as serious as healthcare. Cars. We all go into car. We all take ride cars or drive cars. Now, again, historically, the cars have been designed for the men, and even the dummy tests carried out on the cars are on the male dummy, not the female dummy. It wasn't till 2011 that the female dummy car test was introduced. The way the seat belts are designed or the driver's seat is designed, you will see how a lady is more likely to get seriously injured while driving a car, and is more likely to die from a car crash than a man, simply because the car is not designed for the woman. And so if you see that health and safety manuals when you go to buy a car, see how safe it is for the woman, and it's something of a huge concern. Because I'm talking about cars, I will now go into transportation. If I look at this picture, I won't feel comfortable myself sitting on my own with my motorbike or moped in this place. Now, it can be anywhere. It can be a bus stop in a rural area, or it can be a small town kind of a sitting area somewhere in Europe. It can be anywhere. Now, it has nothing to do with my courage or my bravery or my boldness. Public spaces through history has not been designed for the woman. So if I go back to the ages of Ramayana or Mahabharata or 2000 years back, men used to go out, do hunting or do outside work, and women used to take care of the household. And this was probably, now I will use the word probably, at that time it was done keeping the male and female anthropology in consideration, not probably because of a bias that the female should be at home and the man of the house should be outside. Now what happened is all these women got confined in their own domestic life, and the men were traveling for commerce, trade, gathering food, different things, and they were networking. And that's how all the men of this world got connected, and they created an outside world suitable for them, and the woman got left behind. I mean, that's my theory. I might be wrong. And then, of course, there are biases in the society. So what I'm trying to point is there is bias in the public transportation design, and even in the most so-called advanced countries like Sweden, Netherlands. Take these two diagrams. If though I know the family structure is changing and men are taking more domestic responsibilities, but still for a majority, men leaves home in the morning for workplace. In the evening, they may go to a club or a pub, if I talk about England, and then they are back at home. For a woman, they still do most of the care work, be it for children or for parents. So a woman leaves home, they go to school, they will visit the parents, they will take care of children activities, they will also go to work, they will also do the shopping. Evening they may have some other engagement, and then they are back to work. This is something which is called chain tripping. What women do, all these mini trips through the course of the day, this is called chain tripping. And the chain tripping goes up once a woman has a child or more than one child. So, and if you see this public transportation picture I have put here, like it's a subway, a woman is carrying a lot of more things, a man is carrying a briefcase or a laptop bag, generally speaking. Generally speaking, there will be exceptions. Even I saw Raheja sir always carrying his camera, but not everyone is like Raheja sir. So you see, it is difficult for a woman compared to a man to be using all the buses, trams, trains. So what that leads to is a lady will feel like, okay, let me drive my car, I will do these mini strips, I will check on my parents, I will drop the kids to school, I will do the shopping on my way back home. uh, so they tend to use the cars a lot more, at least in the western countries, and maybe in India also it's starting or it's already a practice. And that leads to more isolation, so they want to basically do all their bits and be back at home in a hassle free manner, because simply the way these public transport places are designed, it's not hassle free for them. So that creates inadvertently an isolation, a seclusion. I myself enjoy a lot talking to people when I'm going to work in the tube, like the metro train, so, or in the bus. So, and yeah, I am single, I'm just carrying my bag, so it's fine, but not every lady is like that. So it creates a seclusion and something to be aware of. And some of you might be from the field of transportation design, so something to consider. This is a graph I've taken from Spain. It's 2 to 3 years old now. If you see this pie chart, 25% of the trips taken in any day is for care work. And by care work I mean like shopping, it can be strolling the baby, visiting the parents, all this kind of thing. And this 25% is done by the woman primarily in Spain. Plus they do this another 30% of travel, which is just for work and employment. So 30 and 25, 55% of the travel the women are doing primarily, but the places are designed for the men. I know this won't change in a day, but if we make ourselves aware, if we incorporate our thinking in our designs, gradually we can create a more equitable world for the next generations. Next, I will go into pilots. I myself have an aunt who is a pilot, and her husband was very supportive and helped her go to Florida to get trained, and she's a super pilot, and we are all very proud of her. But the cockpit design through history has been for the men. So even though we want more women in the aviation field, and we need it because to bridge that demand supply lag, the cockpit is not designed for women. What I was reading a research paper, what the women struggle the most is visibility of the information. They need to be checking on different information. I'm not very educated about this driving up aircraft, so if some of you are aerospace engineers, you can educate me. And so two things they struggle with: visibility, the other is control, like the different pedals and all, everything. So the ergonomics of the cockpit is designed for a man, a kind of well built man. Even a petite man will struggle. So, and if so that means it's difficult for a, not only difficult for a woman, it's putting lives to risk when you are driving aeroplane. So again, something probably is changing gradually, and we need to do more to change it. So something to think about. Now I will come to architecture. When Le Corbusier gave his design principles and designed various places, the human scale he defined was for a 6 feet man. Now we Indians or people in different various places won't fit that 6 feet design. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I was reading in the research papers. I mean, I've read earlier, but I thought I will quote it today. So that was for a 6 feet man, so no woman. There is something about women and Le Corbusier I will touch upon later on, but can any of you identify this visual of a lady? It's from a film, a very recent film. Anyone, by any chance, identify? Yes, exactly. It's a very well made film, and I absolutely loved it.
Indian Kitchen.
Yes, it's the Great Indian Kitchen. So if you see the architecture in filmmaking, architecture also has a big place. So if you see the kitchen in which the lady was cooking most of our time, it's kind of disconnected from the social place where the guests are hosted. So, and if you see various designs of homes in rural places or suburban places, or even now, you will see the kitchen is secluded from. If I see this plan, it's just a sample plan. The entrance of the house, or the place where you receive guests or interact with the community, it's kind of secluded by a courtyard from the kitchen. Not necessarily always by a courtyard, but what I'm trying to get to is, woman is for the kitchen and for the inner circles. It was same when the palaces were designed by the kings, and the outside is for the men. So again, through architecture, historically this divide has been created rather than integrating the woman back into the society. Even now, sometimes people come to me, though I don't function as an architect, come to me for their house designs, and whenever I propose a open plan or a semi open kitchen, which I have in my house where my mother cooks, people are still not comfortable with that idea. They still want the kitchen to be separate, and I believe in that kind of architecture where you break the barriers, you create a free flowing space. Both cinematically I prefer it because it creates depth of field, and both personally I prefer it. The more connected and fluid the places are, the more connected we are with each other. And it's even more important in the world we are living post COVID, and we are talking to each other through internet. So again, yeah, something to be aware of. Now I will go into fragrance. I love for fragrances myself, not always something expensive. My pockets cannot permit there. Just interested to know how many of you use some kind of perfumes. Anyone? And what notes you like? One or two volunteers?
I don't use perfume, Kashmira, as a
Okay.
volunteer, if I could say, but I think
Or cologne,
others,
sir? Cologne?
it's, I think Divyang wants to say something. Neeraj, okay, they're raising hand.
Uh,
Yeah, any just two volunteers.
so,
Two or
like
three.
out of the wheel that is shown, I think drywood is one.
Which one will you prefer?
Drywood.
Dry wood. Okay. And okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Neeraj, I think, wants to say something. Neeraj, are you there?
Okay, it's fine, sir. I will say my favorite flavor. I also like dry wood, to be honest. So apart from spicy notes, I like dry wood quite a lot. So what I want to say is, uh, yeah, anyone wants to speak? Yeah, please speak up. It's fine. Sorry, I could not hear. Sir, is anyone speaking?
I thought it was Neeraj, but I'm not sure.
It's
Anybody
okay.
else? Nobody uses perfume or nobody has a preference for a perfume?
Okay, that's fine. Maybe you will
Kashmir
have
has
like
got so many.
okay, or maybe you have seen your mom or dad or brother, sisters, friends use perfume or partners. But I will share something of a personal story. Now I like dry wood flavor myself quite a lot, and when I went to buy a perfume in a shop, I felt a bit uncomfortable with the salesperson because he was like, "Okay, you want that dry wood note, but it's for the men." And then I felt a bit uncomfortable. Oh, it's for the men, right. Okay, let me go for something fruity or floral in that case. Then I came back with a perfume with a floral notes, though I prefer dry wood. But next time I mustered the courage and went for a dry wood perfume. The reason I'm mentioning this is these fragrances or these notes of perfume, they don't have gender or sex. It's the way the advertisements have been designed for commercial benefit, that woody notes, dry notes are for men, and floral notes are for women. Fruity, if it is citrus, can be for men. Other fruity notes like lavender should be for women. Because if you see the 8 notes of a perfume, even a men's cologne has got some spicy notes, which are probably you will associate more with a lady. So advertisements have assigned gender to smell. I mean, how can a smell have a gender? I like perfumes because of a therapeutic purpose. It kinds of, if I'm doing something, it kinds of gives me a, even I like the smell of my grandma's hand. It's so nostalgic for me, or the food she cooks. For me, all of these are kinds of smells which I enjoy. So I'm not talking about the fancy perfumes of Gucci, Prada, or Chanel. I mean, any kind of smell. How can a smell have a gender? And so this is something the or people who are working in advertising may design their perfumes better. This picture is of a unisex perfume. So something which is coming into the market is now unisex perfume or a cologne, and it has more. There is lots of progress needed, but again, something to be aware of. Okay. Anyone can identify this visual, which film it is? Any takers? Okay, I will go for it. It's Thelma and Louise. Please do watch it. It's directed by Ridley Scott. It's one of the classic films you can ever see with two women protagonists. It's one of the best films I have ever seen, and it's very entertaining. It's not an art film. It's an absolutely commercial film. Even in film design, I will touch upon the thinking part later. There is something which is called a Bechdel test in films, and this data I am showing from a research paper. It has taken 100 highest grossing films from Hollywood and have done the Bechdel test or something similar by using a artificial intelligence tool. So if you see by genre, let me take the top right, top left graph. Average percentage female on screen and average percentage female speaking. So you will see genre by genre for 3 years. The average percentage female speaking is generally on the lower side except romance. And again, the average female on screen, maybe she is not talking, is again generally on the lower side. So it shows, like, even in, we call, say, the West have evolved a lot in terms of film industry. Most of their films fail the Bechdel test, and the same data has been sliced and diced in different ways by Oscar winning films, by adult rating. So you can see it later on. So there is a need to do the narratives in a way where we do it more female centric. Again, there is something very important about Bechdel test I want to mention. You will pass the Bechdel test of a film if there are two female main characters and they are speaking to each other for a considerable amount of time, where they not talk about like a man. Okay, So that's the Bechdel test. And most of the Hollywood films fail that Bechdel test. I don't know whether anyone has done on Indian films. So yeah, even film narratives have to be more more equal, and it's not enough, in my view, not enough to just have a female protagonist. I will quote a favorite filmmaker of mine, Agnes Varda. Please look her up. She's a French filmmaker. She passed away a few years ago. She says it's not enough to just have women in a film, either behind the lens or in front of it, until you are exposing something new, a new thought or a new facade. uh, I'm just explaining to you the quote, but you can find the quote on the internet. So that's the school of thought we need to think about in terms of filmmaking. Now, because I've talked about film, it cannot go without sound and music design, because there is no good film without music and sound, be it a film of the West or be it our Indian films. Now, I have taken a few examples here of films and composers. You'll be very surprised to find that piano has been historically designed for the main fingers. And I have quoted one of my favorite composers, Mozart, here. But I was thinking yesterday, why cannot I easily think of a female music composer, or a pianist? I can think of Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, all of this, but not someone, a lady. Why not? Of course, the piano or the musical instruments have been designed, not all, but I'm talking mainly of piano and similar instruments, are designed for male fingers. And I have put this picture of a lovely lady on the top left. Her name is Myra Hess. She used to play piano during the World War time in England. Please look her up, and I really enjoy the way she interprets compositions by different composers and plays it. She is no longer alive, but her work lives on forever. So please do look her up. And this, now, because I've talked about the musical instrument, I will talk about Hindi film music design. And I've taken three examples here. One is three of their films are very favorite of mine. I will start with the film with Raj Kapoor ji and Nargis ji. This is the song "Pyar Hua Ikrar Hua." Now, if you see the first line, they are sang by a male guy, by Manna De. He's a very celebrated Bengali singer, but also very celebrated in Bollywood. And then the following lines, so the upper notes and the beginning of the song is by a male artist, and then the endings or the lower notes are by a female artist, be it as legendary as Lata Mangeshkar ji. Same with the song from Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, and same with something latest film Sher Shah. So what I'm trying to say is, and I also saw one interview with female playback singers of Bollywood. So all the loops, like Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, the song Tujhe Dekha Tu Ye Jana Sanam, all these loops, you see the signature track, it's always on the male voice. Or Pyar Hua, Ikrar Hua, or this one is, I think, Raate Lambiya or something like that. Apologies, my Hindi is not that good. So again, you see the music, it is designed, again, there is male dominance. And the songs we hum, it's got male dominance, something to be aware of and think about. There are exceptions, I will say, but that's the case. I don't know how many of you are in gaming, but this is another from design. I think I feel there is a lot of scope to go into the gaming industry, and it's huge, I will say. I have taken a few examples. One is of chess, one is of Mario, which I used to play when I was a kid, and the other is Lara Croft. Now, even now, I will start with chess first. In chess, why is the king more important than the queen? Chess is something which was invented in India, if I am not wrong. Now, you have to assassinate the king in within the rules to win the game of chess. And the queen is the next one. So you see, right from the way even our games are designed, if I play chess as a kid, or if, say, I ever have a kid and he and she plays chess, he or she will know the king is important, the queen is less important. And not only just king and queen, why is the knight I'm talking in general bias. Why is the knight or bishop or the rook less important? The pawn. I mean, why don't we have a flat societal structure? So chess is a beautiful game. I enjoy playing it. I'm not good at it, but you see how even the games put that kind of conditioning in our minds. Again, Mario, which I used to play a lot. Why Mario is a guy, little guy, not a little girl? And even when we have female characters in games now through virtual reality, all these playstations, think of Lara Croft. Now she is projected as someone very attractive, but yet she can do all kinds of stunts and action. So it's not some normal lady, like very attractive, and yeah, you see, so there is this sexism in how you are designing the games. And even the game, 46% of game players are girls, but they are also playing with this kind of superheroes. When I was growing up, I did not know Wonder Woman, or I did not have a game with Lara Croft. The games I had were Superman, Spider-Man, this and that. So all men, all superheroes are men. So again, something to be aware of. And there was one film I saw, shared me, which released last year on environment. There we see Vidya Balan as a normal lady fighting the system to protect the tigers. I really liked that film. The way the female dominance in a subtle and silent way was, no, I won't say dominance, but her fighting spirit was portrayed. You don't have to be super muscular or super attractive to be able to rule the roost. So that's what I mean. Because I work in data and analytics, so I feel like touching upon data, some of the tools we have in place. Alexa or any voice assistant is female, because historically we had female secretaries, female assistant. Voice recognition tools, they are far more accurate on men, on Caucasian male to be more specific, than on women. Google Translate, Persian is supposedly a gender neutral language. So if you convert she is a doctor to, or he is a doctor, from English to Persian, it will give you a neutral kind of like, this person is a doctor. Now from Persian, when you again translate it back to English through Google Translate, it will give you he is a doctor, or say for example president, or chairman, or chairperson. Better term is chairperson. It will say he is the chairperson, or he is the cricket team captain. So you see, technology goes as far, technology is as good as us, as good as our thinking. So if we are carrying this legacy of thinking, even the most cutting edge technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, or the cutting edge games won't be will be a victim of our thinking. So something to be aware of. I'm sure many of you may go into artificial intelligence, game design, machine learning after your design degree. So something to keep in mind, if you agree. Now I will go into the thinking part. We have talked about lots of examples from design. Now let's go into the thinking. We have assigned, apart from he and she, we have assigned gender to words. Take this graph here, because I studied architecture. Steel is used mostly for the exterior structure, and say fabric like carpets or any curtains. This is fabric, right? So this is used for interiors. So there is a tool, you can assign gender unit to a word. So she is a feminine word. Fabric is a feminine word, and steel is a masculine word, supposedly, in terms of perception. But there is no logic to it. You see, I'm sure sir has come across very talented architecture students who have become successful, good women architects, and who are also designing the exterior. And likewise, there will be interior designing students who are men, boys, who are doing fantastic in terms of interior design. So but you see how is the perception in general. Same like intelligent, successful, ambitious, they are masculine words. Emotional, vulnerable are the feminine words. That puts the male at disadvantage. Like I was reading a story in Kora. Basically during the COVID time, there was a gentleman who was returning after admitting her daughter and her wife to his daughter and his wife to the hospital because of COVID, and he boarded a ladies compartment in Bombay, and he was crying. And then the women around him first felt a bit irritated, like, why is this man in our compartment? But then they understood him and comforted him. He cried, as far as I read the story, because he cannot cry in front of his daughter and his wife, because he's that strong man. He can pull through any family crisis. So I really feel for all the men whosoever cannot be vulnerable or emotional in front of their near and dear ones. So yeah, I mean, you can find more, even like, for example, pink and blue. When a child is born, in many cases in urban areas I've seen, you will go for a pink shoe or a pink room color, or pink shades for a girl and blue for a boy. Or if a boy suddenly picks up a nail polish and applies a bit on his nail, the mother or father may get concerned. So why this gender bias to objects or to color or to words? So something to think about, because we will be directly or indirectly interacting with the next generation. So how we shape them, it's also a bit of a responsibility. More words you can find. One word I was talking to with sir the other day was this chairman. The more unisex word is chairperson. And something I was very, I will say it's my mistake, male nurse. Yeah, there was this film which came out in India, Dostana, and it was 2008 or something. And I saw Abhishek Bachchan as a nurse, and I was like, a male nurse. And I was with my roommate Rashmi Chauhan. She is a biotech graduate from IIT Roorkee, and we are discussing, how can a man be a nurse? It's our ignorance and the way we have grown up seeing only women becoming nurse. But a nurse can be a man or a woman, and it's a very respected field, a very noble field. You see, like, the way we have grown up. Even I am reducing the conditioning I have got in me. So now I will go into storytelling. Filmmaking is essentially storytelling, and all of us have been brought up listening to various stories. I will touch upon three examples. First is from Ramayana. Kaikeyi is kind of the villain in Ramayana, isn't it? Apart from Ravana, because of her, Rama has to go into the 14 years in the jungle. But when I was growing up, or when I used to listen to the stories from my grandparents, I never learned that Kaikeyi was a warrior princess. And she used to accompany Dasharatha to wars. And in one war, she saved Dasharatha's life. And that's how Dasharatha gave her this favor, that she can ask for whatever she wishes for one time or something like that. The story I have heard in my childhood is Dasharatha fell sick, and Kaikeyi did a lot of nursing and care, and Dasharatha was so pleased on Kaikeyi that he offered to give her a favor. So you see, even this, though it's a mythological story, but the actual mythological story is a bit different than what I have been told when I was a child. I don't know how many of you, we can discuss it after I have finished, know that Kaikeyi was a warrior princess. She was very much in touch with her family, her brother, after her marriage, and they also played a vital part in her life. So yeah, yeah, she's a flawed character, but she's a well-rounded character, I will say, probably one of the best characters in terms of character writing. uh, and yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other second is like a sculpture of Helen of Troy. This is same with the epics of us, our India, Ramayana, Mahabharata. So the woman is the kind of object of discord, let's say, the object of conflict. So same with Helen of Troy, Ilias Odyssey by Homer, or Ramayana and Mahabharata. So the children, when they hear this story, this kind of conditioning will happen. I have read a research paper where it was done in UK.
UK, where it says you have to be very careful with the words you use with a child, because that words create a kind of conditioning, a kind of mental image. Whatever you say, they see as a mental image. So you have to be very careful in what image you are giving to the child. So when we tell all these stories to kids, uh, they will think, oh, the woman needs to be saved, the men have to save the woman. There is nothing wrong. It's a great act to save any woman, but it's a great act to save any human being from any danger, not just women. So and another example I will take is and sorry, before I move to the last example, in Helen of Troy, there is this judgment of Paris. Google it up. So it says like Paris, the prince of Troy, I think, was offered 3 to 4 women for choosing as a wife. They, all of them, from Athena, who was good at war and had got good administrative capability, to some other princesses, they were all offering something to Paris so that Paris will choose them. And they finally, he went for Helen because she was superbly beautiful. So you see how this creates a conditioning, like what is the woman offering to a man, without sounding feminist. Similarly, I know in many cases the woman also looks for, okay, what I am getting from the man. So it's a two-way thing. It's for all of us to work together. So yeah, you see how these stories, though they are brilliant stories, I enjoy listening to these stories, have also got certain conditioning in them. And with the last is a painting of Krishna and his second wife Swatabhama. She was again a warrior princess, and she used to accompany Krishna to wars. And this is again something I wasn't aware of. I have heard of Radha Krishna and I have heard of Rukmini. I wasn't that aware of Swatabhama. It could be just me, to be honest. And same with Arjun's third wife, I think, in Mahabharata, Chitrangada. She was again a warrior princess, most probably from Manipur. So yeah, we have all these women figures in history. Scholars like Maitreyi, is just that they are not focused enough. And that creates a kind of bias, and due to this bias all of us suffer, not just the woman. I will tell you why. I have asked people, will you prefer a male doctor or a female doctor? The men generally prefer a male doctor, and this preference goes up with age. The beginning years of their life, they are under the supervision of their mother, and the mother does not care whether it's a male or a female doctor. So in the beginning years of a life, it's a graph from USA, from a website called ZocDoc. They deliver medication and medical service. So you can see a man prefers a male doctor, a bias, but a female doctor is equally trained. And even I read a case study, a full female emergency ward in Florida is serving the patients better than an all male emergency ward somewhere else. So it shows kind of women are equally capable. Same with architects. UK Design Council, they did a survey of 27 leading architectural design firms, and across these all 27 architectural design firms, there were only 31 or 34 female architects across 27 these big global companies, cutting edge. So you can see like the gap. uh, Again, you see this pie chart, only a small percentage accepts a female architect. Again, so I don't go into the salary because this has been spoken about a lot in the past, and I'm not someone who is that concerned with salaries, so it's for you guys. But I'm just generally saying a female architect is as capable as a male architect, but people don't trust. And the thing is, this creates a demand supply lag. You need to build something and you will go to a male architect, but there might be a female architect available, but this male architect might have a pipeline of 10 projects, and after that he will do your project. So you are making your own world difficult. That's what I want to point out, rather than like give women more chances. It's a demand supply thing. Now I will touch upon Bohas, the Bohas movement. I have it can be just me. I haven't come across any or during my time at IIT Roorkee, I could not think of female Bohas architects or designers. I mean, they don't come to my mind so easily. By any chance, any one of you can identify these two pieces of textile work by any chance? Anyone? No? Okay, that's fine. So this is by Annie Albers. She's a German American textile artist, a very legendary one. She was studying during the Bauhaus movement in Germany, but because she was a woman, she was not allowed to take certain courses in the Bauhaus school. So, and she was forced into the textile kind of module because she was a girl. She didn't want to take it. It's exactly because of the same reason that, oh, this is kind of a feminine thing. I want to do real things. But it kind of caught her. She took up textile and she gave a new meaning to it. These are like pieces of art. These are carpet designs or tapestry, I will say. And you can find more about Annie Albers. I went myself went to an exhibition at Tate Modern in London few years back. So she's one of the most brilliant textile artists, and she combines art and craft, because textile or tapestry is not only art. This is also craft. You have to work with the threads. So it's a tiring work. She's brilliant. I'm a huge fan of her. So just to point out, like even during forward thinking movement like Bauhaus, someone like Annie Albers was barred from certain courses, and so she indirectly and involuntarily took this textile design course. And of course, yeah, she created wonders. So in a way I am happy, but yeah, she faced this struggle. Now I will go on to finance, something I have enjoyed a lot because I grew up in Shantiniketan from the age of 5. So from the age of 5 till 15, I was under a mural painter, and I took visual arts training. Anyone, this is one of my favorite painters. By any chance, anyone knows this painter? She has got a very signature style. Okay, I will go for it. Look for it. It's Georgia O'Keeffe. She is a modern abstract painter, and I don't think she's alive anymore. I have to check. She paints her experience of nature. You see, I grew up till the age of 5 on the banks of River Rupnarayan, and I spent a lot of time in nature. I used to take the long walks with my grandfather, my Nanaji, along the banks. And nature is, I love nature. I like spending time in nature, and that's the best part I like in London, the parks. So, and Georgia O'Keeffe paints her expression, how she experiences nature. The thing is, funnily, when I was taking this visual arts training, I never heard of her. I heard of a lot of people: Picasso, Van Gogh, Salvador Dali. I can give you a list of names: Monet, uh, Paul Gauguin, but not Georgia O'Keeffe, and even Jackson Pollock. She's an American expressionist. This was later during my London years that I found her about her, and I fell in love with the work. Now, because she's a female painter, she hasn't got that much of publicity or that much of prominence, and she herself told in an interview, if I remember correctly, "Why do you call me a female painter? I am a painter like any other painter, and if you like my work, you like my work." So yeah, this is a bias in thinking. Next, I will go on to another subject I love a lot: philosophy. I was thinking a couple of days back after Sir told me about this talk. When I think of philosophers, I think of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. By modern, maybe Dostoevsky, Wittgenstein, Sartre, Albert Camus, all this, or maybe say Hegel, Kant, Nietzsche. But no female philosopher comes to my mind, me being a lady. Then I started looking into, like, okay, who are the women philosophers? I will give you an example. This is a painting, a old, most probably Greek or painting. Socrates used to take guidance and advice from a lady called Ephesia, who was one of the consort of the then ruler of Athens. But why she was very prominent was she could structure her arguments and her opinions in a very persuasive and constructive way. And Socrates used to not, I won't say take training, but used to share knowledge with each other with aphasia. And but we never learn about aphasia in the books of history, or when I click philosophers or say orators. So you see how in history women philosophers have got subdued. Another example I will give is of I think her name is Annie Conaway. She's of France. You can find even about her. Again, you don't hear a lot about her. There is another lady called Emilia de Chatelet. She was a kind of partner of the other philosopher Voltaire, who spoke about Christianity. We hear more about, but not about Emilia de Chatelet. So again, yeah, some examples to think about. And even because philosophy is a stream which brings all the streams together. Even in philosophy, if we have bias, then yeah, we need to do something about that. Is deeply grained everywhere. I will give some personal examples. Uh, when I type images of corporate leaders in Google, it gives me the image on the right. If I type swing bowler, it gives me this kind of silhouette. If I type doctors and nurses, it gives me this kind of silhouette. These are very much evident in themselves, the gender bias. I will tell you a personal story. I enjoyed playing cricket, as Sir told. My primary motivation of going for London Business School rather than from a university in USA, I got admitted at Duke University, and my father paid 50,000 rupees at admission fee. And after that, I got admission into London Business School, and I got 60% scholarship, and I went for London Business School. My motivation was I can play cricket. I have searched about the cricket clubs in London, and I am a huge lover of visual arts. And in London, it's very cosmopolitan, and there are lots of galleries, and you have Europe just a stone's throw away. That was the reason for going for London Business School. People laugh at my reasoning, but they were the genuine reasoning. My father get very frustrated with my reasoning, but that's the reasoning. But what I will give you an example is I have played cricket in England with country cricketers. My average is like my economy is good, like 2.3, 2.4. I don't get much wickets. I am a swing bowler, but I am very disappointed when I see this kind of silhouette. And when I was a kid, when I used to play with the boys in my school, because there weren't other girls playing, there were people who will tell me off. Not my teachers or my parents, they were very supportive, but other people, they will tell me off, or maybe even isolate me, like, oh, she's different, and that kind of thing. And then we were playing a match, and we were doing a tournament in school, and we were doing captaincy on a rotational basis. So the boys thought I'm a girl, I cannot be a captain, so they ruled me out from being the captain of the team. I was very sad. I was a kid, you see, at that time. But yeah, now it does not matter. I just enjoy playing cricket. Haven't played during the lockdown. And some more domestic examples. If I take up a drill to do to stick a nail in the wall and to hang a picture, I'll be told off by my dad, because he thinks I may hurt my back or my wrist. That's partially true, because you see the instruments are designed for the men again, but it's also a bias in his thinking, like this kind of works, plumbing, this and that, or drilling are for men. So it comes from a man who wants to protect me from female discrimination, wants to empower me through education and exposure. So you see, it's so much of conditioning. I feel like human beings are like onions. We will peel off our layers gradually. The first point is to be aware of it. I always thought about my mom being in kitchen and my dad teaching, because my dad is a professor of zoology. And say I'm the only child, and say if I'm not happy with something, or say they are being strict on me, I will tell my mom, oh, your cooking is not good, and I will tell my dad, you are not a good professor. So you see how as a kid I had this conditioning, like my dad goes to work, he teaches, and my mom cooks. And one more example I will take is of Lee Corbusier. There was this class I took with Rajesh Chandra sir. I don't think he is still working as a professor. He might have retired, I'm not sure. I still remember him vividly. He told that Lee Corbusier designed Chandigarh, and Lee Corbusier designed the courtyard of the houses, keeping the mother and child in consideration. Now I think back, I think why not for the father and child? I myself spent equal amount of time with my mom and dad both. Though I know we are more moving towards equal parenting, but it's still a long way. When I ask my friends or people in my social network, they think, oh, this will be the mother looking after the child. So again, the child needs to spend equal amounts of time with both the parents if they have both the parents to be more balanced. Again, that's my view. We may totally disagree with it. So yeah, these are some anecdotes and example. Sorry, I've been speaking for so long. I will share a personal story of alternate thinking, and that will be it from my end. This is going back into early 1950s. My granddad, by that I mean my dadaji, my father's father, he was a theater artist. And at that time, he also got chance in films in the Bengali film industry, but he could not go for it. Again, there was bias in the family that, oh, people should not go for a profession like film. So he continued doing theater, and but that did not bring food to the table. He tried to work in some offices. At that time there were like British firms, but because of his creative personality, he was a brilliant improviser. He could not suit the office work, and he kind of changed 7 8 jobs, and he became mentally frustrated. So at that time, my grandma kind of had a open conversation with him. Like, by open conversation I mean like really listening to him, because in communication listening is a big part. So what they came out with was, my grandma will take up a job and my granddad will be the homemaker. My granddad was a fantastic cook, fantastic gardener. He took care of the kids, and I'm very proud to share my grandma worked in healthcare. He served her own village and the surrounding villages. It's a village in Howrah district in Bengal. And yeah, I mean, they lived happily ever after. My grandma is still very much around. She enjoys gardening these days. She's not a good cook, I will tell you very honestly. I get scared if I have to eat any food made by her. So yeah, I mean, I can take you from my family of alternate thinking, and she was the only woman in her village doing that. So it was very difficult for both my granddad and my grandma. People will talk about my granddad not working despite being a man, and my grandma going out of the house and working. So yeah, I mean, there are examples to take from every person and every human being, and every generation has its own challenges. So yeah, that's all for me. I have put together, maybe you have seen all these films, some film recommendations which I thought kind of touched upon the gender bias in a different way. By different way, I mean like they don't show the man to be a macho image, or they don't show the woman to be like a prop or a love interest, or there is something also like this film by Nagesh Kukunu, Door. So this is a film where you don't see the woman either as someone like, oh, very attractive dancing and singing, neither as someone who is a super muscular and pulling off martial arts skills. So very internalized woman strength. That's what that film talks about, kind of portrays. Similarly, all the films, if you haven't watched, do watch these films. And one of my most favorite ones is Into the Wild. This is about a Ivy League student from affluent background who lives behind everything and goes to live in the forest. This is most probably based on a true story, and all the films are wonderful. And even in the way, say, a recent film many of you may have seen, Sairat, the way they have done this romantic story, you see the girl taking the first steps, the girl looking at the boy, not the other way around. The boy is fair skinned, the girl is dark skinned, the girl is riding a motorbike. Again, these are all symbolisms. This is not something like, okay, if the heroine of the film smokes, that means it's a liberated film, nothing like that. But I like the way it was done in Sairat. So yeah, so that's all from me, and thank you so much for listening. And I'll very much love to know your thoughts, things you don't agree with, anything you will like to share. I will stop sharing at this point, sir.
Thank you so much, Kashmira. I think first a small round of applause for the kind of articulations that you have carried forward, and I would say head spinning pointers that have come from the examples starting from the pocket politics. I think I'm just noting down the kind of phraseology that you're choosing. Not that it decorates the word any further, but reflects the rootedness of this bias, right? So while I admit that these are all very, very contextual uh, situations, perspectives that you have brought in a very, very friendly manner, despite I presume sometimes you or us or anyone, I mean, for that matter, all humans are at some receiving end of bias, which could be of any reason, right? So gender has been one such dimension of human life, which is a global phenomena. It's not just an Indian phenomena. And likewise, there are other pointers, whether it is even income as a bias or economy as a bias, and I'm sure race as a bias, and so many other biases that exist in human life, right? So, a very overarching conversation that I would like to now open it for the audience here as well. But I think I'll have to carry this conversation with you much more. Also, on a little positive note, is that at least we have reached a point that we are able to talk about it.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
definitely.
I'm not sure if we are able to remove the biases having been part of our brought ups and growth, but I think the acceptance is the first step before any form of retrofit that we look forward for, right?
Even sir, three terms, sorry for mentioning, it just came to my mind. Master bedroom, king size bed, and queen size bed. All of us uses this. Again, kind of the deeply ingrained bias. So
In
yeah, just pointing out something.
In fact, any other parallel metaphors as examples? One of my friends, she was telling me about the game of chess and the role being played by the queen. Actually, the queen there has a much more powerful role to protect the king or to fight the wars in the game of chess. While it's a game which is designed for war-based, planning, and something that usually the rulers and the kings had been engaging in, which got transferred into a modern society as well. So there have also been examples where women have been, or gender has been given a certain very strategic role, and such that those empowerments are also lying underneath, our daily
Exactly.
interactions.
Exactly.
And to the extent, I mean, of course, we have not done a study, but this talk of yours inspires me to take up several such studies. I hope I get more hands to do this. Is to analyze the kitchen products. How friendly they are for what genders. And I do not know if the design has any gender bias, or are they truly unisex. So I would say, is the knife a unisex element, or is the cutlery a unisex element of design? And I'm sure there would be many more such instances to reflect upon. So I'm looking at your talk actually as a mirror, whereas there is a complete sea to take up. And I think so. I will not talk much on this. I will now open the conversation for everyone else to, uh, if possible, switch on the video so that Kashmira can also see you, and so can I. But at the same time, in case there is a problem, you can also just speak up and please share your points of view, right? And of course, if you wish to further write about it also, please do write.
Yeah.
Yeah. So over to you guys. I think it can be self-moderated, and it's kind of a relay session. I am just ears and watching the whole session to interact. Over to you guys.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Hi Aishwarya, yeah, I can hear you.
I think Shreya has left. She is actually in a hospital. She recently had surgery.
Oh,
But you can see the popularity of your talk. People don't want to miss it. So I think she might join, but in the meantime, maybe somebody else can start the conversation.
you can even share biases you have faced or have thought about from your life.
I'm just wondering if this silence reflects a kind of bias.
No,
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you. May I know your name, please?
I'm Sakshi.
Hi, Sakshi.
So when you were sharing, I was able to relate with few things. And when I was doing mechanical engineering, so it started from there when I chose to do mechanical engineering. And after that, I was very good at lab work. I personally say my theory was not that much good. And in lab, the instructor used to scold me or maybe like say like, no, you should not operate this machine. There are guys, and we were only three girls in the class. And I used to like first get irritated, and then I used to get just smile and get back to it. And this happened with me of all the 4 years, and I was able to relate. And I always question, and I always asked why, like the way you always ask why in every field. So this was one of my experience I wanted to share.
Got similar stories from girls who have pursued mechanical engineering. So could be maybe the professor was also right, because maybe again the machines might be designed for guys, so you may have some back issue or injury. So, but it might also be kind of a deeply ingrained bias, probably a product of both.
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
If you guys, yeah, please go ahead, Divyang.
Uh, Thank you so much for that very insightful presentation. And like I think we've learned a lot. So I don't have any question, but so you had pointed out about the restroom design, and actually just a few days back, so I'm doing a study on accessible sanitation, and I was doing a public toilet study near Sarojini Nagar in Delhi, and there I precisely saw this that the male toilets were pretty much not that there were not many people there, but there was a huge queue outside the female section of that toilet. And in fact, it was so long that when let's say it was getting fully occupied, the maintenance staff was guiding the women to use the Divyangjan toilet, which is the disabled toilet, so that everyone so that they can at least use and quickly vacate the toilet. So this is something that I actually saw on the field, and I think it really makes sense that the restroom design that is there, it is not sufficient enough, and like you said, the duration that women need to use the toilet is also like more. So I think that really made sense. And another point that I wanted to add was maybe like I've come across this concept of the pink tax, which is like the cost of products, which is uh, it is an invisible cost, which is for more for women for the products that are specifically designed for them. So, uh, like these were things.
Sorry, Divya, what is the pink tax? Sorry, I'm not aware of this.
So pin tax is basically, let's say, for example, there might be two products. Like one is designed for men, and there might be a counterpart of the similar product designed for women. So
Mhm.
it has been observed that the counterpart is priced higher. Uh,
I
so
see.
so that is what they call it as a pink tax. So
I see.
so
And it's
that's like
how do you spell it? PINK, like the color pink?
yeah, the color
Oh,
pink.
I
Yeah.
see. Right, I see. Okay, makes
So it's
sense.
like usually it's the like the very stereotypical pink variant of any product, like just to signify that it's for female. So it is overpriced, or like there is a price gap because
Okay.
associated with that. So that is something that I recently came across as well.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Very good research. I would love to learn more how your research goes, and if you feel comfortable sharing more, I would love to learn more about your journey on this study.
Definitely, definitely, and I'd love to learn more from you as well, because I think it goes for many of us that we were not at all aware about certain things that you said as well. So I
I
think that
see.
is really
Yeah, I
really
mean, it's a journey together. I'm getting aware, and I'm very lucky that I'm able to share that awareness with you all. So it's a journey, all of us together. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Hello, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank you for the very, very interesting talk. I think you have touched upon so many areas, so diverse areas. It was very fluid, and yet uh, probably I can say that you have given a new lens of looking at things. now, now I'll be more observant, and when I'm looking into these things, because you've touched upon so many areas that we go across, but then we do not acknowledge those things. So thank you for that. Throughout the talk, I felt that it is more biased towards a particular gender. But do you think that there are also examples wherein we can see that it is biased towards women as well? I mean, do you recall? I was just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
through.
yeah, definitely. Like one I personally feel is the emotional bias. Like even today, like not many men feel comfortable like sharing their emotions. It's just because that will be kind of, people will think them as vulnerable. I mean, we are a multifaceted human being. We have all sorts of emotion. So this is something I deeply feel for the men. Or maybe in terms of, I'm not a legal expert, there might be certain laws which prefers the woman than the men. Again, I don't want to comment on this because I'm not educated enough. Other things I can think of is maybe a very thing I personally enjoy: someone opening the door for me and I walking in, if I am going with my dad or my guy. But maybe I am also, part of this bias, and I'm enjoying someone opening the door for me. So maybe I need to get over this bias, or allowing me to sit down while a man stands. So you see, this is a bias. That's very simple bias. I enjoy, but I need to get over this, I think.
Okay. One more personal observation, ma'am. I'm going to be a father very soon, and I was visiting a
Very
lot
good.
of hospitals, and I
Yes.
saw that it is primarily biased towards mother, and it's all about motherhood, and that triggered a thought that ideally it should be parenthood. It's the both the
Mm-hmm.
parties are together, and
Yep.
but the term motherhood was highlighted throughout the signages, through the visual communications. Somehow I felt that the role of father is being missed out, and I felt that parenthood would have been a better word. I don't know, but what are your
Parenthood.
thoughts around it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You see, like the way even our, I will take the example from film and storytelling, because I love that. The way we have designed the mothers and fathers in our films or stories, they are like people you look up to, and like mother is like a saint. But what we need is a more equitable kind of world, where we see as our mother as a multifaceted person. She may have flaws, or our father as a multifaceted person. And my father may have days where he feels low, or he's maybe a very simple thing is he gets frustrated taking classes on internet. He loves the face-to-face interaction. Or if my mother is worried about something, or so uh, I won't say, yes, parenthood is definitely a better term. And I have got friends who have parents of the same gender, because they were transgender parents. So parenthood is definitely a better word, a more equitable word. I don't agree with the word motherhood. What they probably meant was the stream of gynecology, because the mother is giving birth to the child, and there are certain medical considerations to take. But yes, I feel like, for example, my mother or my father can talk very freely with me about their flaws, or the issues they are facing, and if there is anything I can do, not always physically, but also emotionally or mentally, I'm there to do. And I feel like we have to move to that level of parenthood, where the kids think of their parents as a individual who can have flaws, who will have good qualities, who will have not so good qualities. How to walk that journey of life together more happily, so that we become aware of each other's flaws, and we walk towards overcoming those flaws wherever possible, or supporting each other in certain areas we may not be fully empowered.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you have also given tips for parenting to me as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, guys, please carry on. Such a nice conversation, very meaningful insights coming there from all of you. Um,
Sir, is there any? I know this is the course is for design for social inclusion. Is there any, say, case study you guys have done? You will love to talk about and share, or any project you are doing where you are working with? It does not have to be gender bias. I will just love to know.
I think, Kashmira, last week we had actually, I mean, let me just give you a quick background to this. First of all, this is the uh, first inaugural batch of Masters of Design, and it itself is breaking a bias of this IIT from engineering to a word called design. And within that journey forward, this is the first step of taking a course. We could have titled it as inclusive design and universal design, which were actually very, very core areas in which I had worked. But we choose to use the word social inclusion so that the spectrum of the course can add more human dimensions to it than just the dimensions of the because typically inclusive design is understood or interpreted as design for people with disabilities. In fact, so on a very deliberate note, we chose to use the word social inclusion, and we definitely thought that this course needs a certain body of work. Some things do exist, but as you know, West has been slightly better than us in terms of documenting data and bringing out these things in measurable terms. India is a pretty complex country and a beautiful country by virtue of its complexity, that it is not so easy to bring out the idea of exclusion as well. To be honest, the biggest form of exclusion we find is economic based exclusion in our
Mm-hmm.
country. Because that has a direct impact on life.
Yep.
Other things do impact life as well. So if you cross layer this, and that we call it as the theory of intersectionality, that no human is by himself or herself individual. So if a gender is cross layered with economics, so a woman with weaker economic condition is furthermore biased. I mean, she
Yeah.
receives furthermore vulnerable bias than a woman who is in a position of economic power. So if you actually see the idea of this course was to therefore initiate discussions, discourses, and open up rather than make it immediately textbook. Because I know in most other courses we follow very strong textbooks, but as we are progressing further, I think the most of the literature that I have with me is more about inclusive design from certain perspective, but I am restricting to share that because I'm first wanting to open the course before I close it
Yeah.
up on a certain ability based dimension. So basically, the four cardinal axes of social inclusion that we are taking up is gender, age, ability, and economics, right?
Okay.
Primarily. So on which I think case studies must develop and move forward. And what so far the batch has done is have done a kind of demographic assessment of these perspectives so as to understand what is the volume and magnitude of age-based requirement. Because aging also is a phenomena which needs consideration. I'm sure in UK you have seen how aging people actually live. Sometimes I feel pity in the Western
Yeah.
world. Why
Exactly.
they have an amazing design of assistive technology, but there is a layer of isolation that also happens.
Definitely. Exactly.
Contrary to India, where you may not have assistive technology, but you have
But
people to talk to.
yeah.
So there are many perspectives that I think the idea is to start sharing, talking, and therefore we thought to have speakers like triggers certain thoughts which we carry forward as reflections in our classes, and followed by I think we do have some limitations because of the online world, but my personal intent would have been to actually push these students into the real life world, so as to walk in a village to understand what inclusion exclusion is than to just read a textbook, right? And second
Yep.
is a technique, pedagogically we call it a role play technique,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that you assume the role of something, because most of our education is like 1 hour of class and finished, and then you only read it in the exam, right? But I think that's not learning. That's mere information. So one of the ways of learning which I believe about role play is that I'm going to give them those tasks soon, is at least spend 24 hours in that role. Because then the impact of that is kind of there with you for your lifetime as an experience. And for example, I have been doing it in some other courses where I would make some person choose a particular disability as well. For example, a blindness, right? Please spend 24 hours with that situation and experience the world for yourself. And unless these sensory kind of neurons are activated, the cognitive thinking also does not happen on those perspectives.
Sir, can I tell you something? Two things
Yeah.
I want to tell you at this point. One is I wanted to learn from you how we can take it as a separate conversation. How gender bias the design of these wheelchairs and crutches are. I haven't done a research on that yet. And the other thing, funnily, because you mentioned role play and because I do filmmaking, I actually designed the exercise for today. I just need one volunteer to do kind of a 5 minutes role play just to understand what uh, what what I mean. I will be the one person and I need just one more person. So if you allow, it might be humorous if you allow, and if I have one volunteer, I can show you like a bit of a role play which I kind of do both in filmmaking and also in my personal life to understand people. So if there is any volunteer, I'll be super happy to do that. And if you guys have time, it will take 5 minutes to do.
You want to do it now, Kashmira?
Yes, sir. If you
Sure,
if
sure.
you
So I think I am all for it. If nobody else, I am the volunteer.
okay, sir. So I
But
will
but
just
I first want to give the chance to the brighter people. So anybody from the youth here? I mean, I'm not aging either, but uh,
yes, sir, you are forever young. I see you exact same. I saw you when I saw you in London. So
effective piece remains the same, right? Defective.
no, sir, you are taking very good care of yourself. Yes.
So yeah, please, guys, anybody wants to volunteer for Kashmira's? कितना
And it's a safe
resist
place.
है.
It's a safe place. There is nothing like failure in life. So look at it as a new
In fact,
a new
that
perspective.
that it gives me a new hypothesis, Kashmir. I mean, on this side of the screen, I've always been thinking, has the online education during the COVID time made us more reserved, made us more resistant to open up, because we have created our own, and I think there has been a huge impact. We may not even know about it actually.
Yeah.
I do see there is a huge drag actually, to get people out of their comfort zones and make them freely more active, participate, etc. I don't know what is the reason, but I do see it from one side of it. Maybe it does require a study, and definitely the issues that you mentioned about wheelchair and assistive technology. It's a very very fundamentally big subject, I must say. A lifetime would also be insufficient, but yes, a start is needed on the gender bias in design of assistive technologies. It's a very crucial thing, including the crutches. But I think here Sakshi has raised her hand, maybe as a volunteer or
Okay.
maybe she has something to say.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to volunteer, Sakshi? Okay, cool. So I will just request everyone else to turn off your cameras and your microphones so that it's just the two of us on screen.
Okay.
Oh, okay, Sakshi, you can see me clearly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to play this game for 3-4 minutes. It's a safe place. There is nothing like failure. So don't be anxious or stressed. I know you're playing it for the first time. So I'll be a teacher. You will be a student. And the scenario is I'm a teacher. You are a student. I can speak in English. You can speak in English. The way you can speak is you have to keep your mouth closed and you can speak, or you can use your hands. So you have to basically you can do this, or you can use arms, or you can use your gesture to speak, but you cannot use words to speak. So if I tell you like have you done the assignment, and no, so if I tell you why didn't you do the assignment, say me something like that. Give me the reason. What? You didn't get time to do it? I mean, what were you doing? Were you out in the park doing it? Why cannot you get time to do the assignment? What? You fell sick? Okay. Mm, you went out for shopping. That's how you didn't get time to speak. So, okay, Sakshi, what I will do is I will ask you questions and you have to answer. And let's put in one more thing. Don't say no, just so that I just wanted to do a trial thing. Say something, and I will guess it, and I will say a reason like, okay, you haven't done this. What? Three trials for every question. Three trials. The last answer I give, you have to, even if that's not the correct answer I am giving as to what you are saying, you will reluctantly move ahead. Okay. So okay, it
But
makes
it's hard.
sense.
It's very hard to like even to react to it. I can either say I don't have time or I was not there, or I can say yes or no.
Okay, I won't say that question. I will say some other question. Okay, so one, and I will say when it has ended. I will just cut it. So 1, 2, 3, start. You are getting late for the exams. You are already 5 minutes late. Where have you been? What? You you fell sick. You were sleeping. But you have an exam. How can you sleep? Who on this earth sleeps when there is an exam? And this is your final semester exam. And if you fail, what's going to happen? Have you realized what's going to happen? Okay, you have you realized that? So you haven't realized what's going to happen, right? So you haven't realized what's going to happen. Okay, now we are already 5 minutes late, and first you have to give me enough reason to sleeping is not good reason to let you in the exam. You have to give me more reason. So what is your exact reason? Are you sick? Why did you oversleep? That's my first question. Didn't you have an alarm clock? Why did you oversleep? Okay, so you are sick. So why didn't you go to the hospital? So you went to the hospital. So okay, so you went to the hospital. So and why didn't you? What did the doctor say? Oh my God, it's already getting late. So you were saying you fell sick, you went to the doctor, but you don't know anything after that. You were just feeling sick. So that's not enough reason. You see, for me to let you in the examination, you have to give me proper reason. It takes what 20 minutes to come from the hostel to here. So I'm guessing you left your hospital, you overslept, then you went to the hospital, and then you are coming here. So how can you, okay, it's already 10 minutes late, so how can you be 5 minutes late? You could still have been on time if you have seen the doctor at the right time. So basically you overslept and you didn't see the doctor at the right time. Oh, so okay, so you were walking and you had an accident. Okay, I understand. Your friend has an accident. Oh my God, I have to call the hospital. Well, I'm a teacher. That's not my job, but I have to call the hospital now. Where is your friend? Is your friend on the road? Okay, so she's not on the road. Is she in the hospital? Oh, so you're already in the hospital. So, but you also suffered accident, but you didn't go to the hospital. You came for the exam and you were sick. So how is it working? Oh, smiling is not working. You see, like it's already 10 minutes. Okay, what I can do is I cannot let you in because there is not enough reasoning for it. I have to reschedule your exam. But what I can do is ask you to just go home now and either take care of yourself or take care of your friend. I don't know. That's not my job. I'm a teacher. I'm just supposed to take your exam and pass or fail you. Cut.
It was so hard. And the story changed what I was when you were questioning it, there was no friend in my excuse. Okay.
So my point of doing it was, you see, like when someone cannot talk, or it can have
Right.
any kind of other thing, and say, if I am so biased in my mind, like, okay, this is my job, I am a teacher, and I am telling all my things, and I'm not exactly listening to you, not even listening, I'm not understanding you. So what kind of difficulty can rise from it? So and how we have to listen more, understand more, and be more inclusive. So yeah, that's all.
And it gave me the feel like when you were being strict, like how the world will treat me. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I did not design it. Like, I do a lot of improvisation, so these are things I understand it can be hard for you, but I don't do improvisation just for filmmaking, but also for my personal development, to kind of, it kinds of opens me up. So yeah, I will also encourage all of you to do improvising, and I'm more than happy to do anytime. So it was just to give an example, because we are talking about the biases.
and sorry for being a bad student here.
There is no bad student or good student.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kashmira, for that wonderful example on the perspective of role play as well. So, is there anything else that anybody else wants to share? I'm
Good
sure
afternoon,
these
sir.
kind of these kind of
Joined.
interact. Yeah, sorry.
Good morning, sir. Ashwarya this side.
Yes, good
I
morning, Aishwarya. Yeah, please carry on. I hope you're doing well, Aishwarya.
Yes, sir, I'm doing much better. Thank you.
Yeah, please carry on.
It was a wonderful talk by you today, and I was very like I was very impressed by how like through your presentation you could cover on so many topics, which show us how gender bias exists in our world. And currently I am a PhD student under God of Raheja, sir. And my PhD research area also deals with gender inclusion, and I'm
Yes,
mostly working on public spaces. But whatever literature I have come across and whatever examples, real life examples I'm coming across, and like earlier I did not used to consider myself as a feminist, but after going through all this literature, I feel gradually I am turning into one. And like today, when you gave us the example of public toilet ratios, so I would like to add one small fact in that, which is that almost one in every three women are menstruating at one point of time. So it is
okay.
even important for us to have, more number of cubicles for women than the men. And when you were talking about trip chaining, uh, so in India, the trip training is more relevant with public transportation, since a lot
Mhm.
of us still don't have our own personal private vehicles, and most of us still rely on public transportation. So that was one another thing I wanted to bring in to highlight. And I also came across a lot of literature, very interesting literature rather, which talks about how street art through graffitis or signages, we create more inclusive environments. Suppose, if we are creating graffitis which have a very strong representation of women, suppose we are painting an abstract of a Devi Ma, right? And that could be anywhere in the city, but that brings upon a sense of ownership in such public spaces. So that is
Mhm.
how, that is one example through which design actually helps us to create more gender inclusive spaces. And when you were talking about philosophers, that we don't really come across a lot of female philosophers. Uh, in fact, that many times we also have. I'm sorry, but I don't recall which philosopher example you had taken, but you had mentioned that he had a female friend who was like helping
Yeah,
him and
Socrates.
prompting him.
Yeah,
Yes.
Socrates.
So that actually brought to my mind how we have so many female authors who have many times, taken pseudo names to publish their books. And one of the
Yeah,
very, big examples which comes to my mind right now is J.K. Rowling. So
yeah,
J.K. Rowling actually stands for Joan
yes.
Kathleen Rowling, but she actually tried to take up a more gender neutral name. to have a more wider reach to her audience. So yeah, these are a few things I could think of while going through a lecture, your talk, and I think it. I actually feel very happy today that we could have such an open conversation about this, and this is something which is a very newly introduced. Actually, it has always existed, but we haven't really looked at it through this gender lens. And I'm happy that we are able to talk about it, and I hope some really interesting design ideas and design solutions can come about from these talks. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you are feeling better and do recover very soon. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya, there. And of course, very pertinent points being brought by all of you. And I think that is something which brings us towards the end of this session now. But I think I'll still wish if there is any one last comment here from anyone to share any thoughts. Anybody has any thoughts to share? No. Don't see any hands up, but I think Kashmira, on a very, very personal note and on behalf of both the Department of, oh, I think Harsha has something to
Yeah.
say. Harsha, you have the last final word. Yeah, please.
Thank you everyone to like share this eye-opening and sharing. I also want to share one view which happened with me before 2 days back. I was playing cards with my family,
Okay.
and one of my younger cousins said, "Why this king is greater than the queen?" And suddenly my small cousin said, "Because king is handling the superpower which queen has." So I don't know how to carry on that conversation that time. So later on, I just thought of it, how society are teaching us. They are always comparing strength with a man and softness with a woman. So that was a little
Harsha, what did
li-
your younger cousin do? Sorry, I missed that bit. Your voice was breaking up a bit.
yeah, I'm audible now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My cousin asked it why king is greater than the queen in that way.
Oh, king is greater than the queen. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then my small cousin said because he's handling the super powers of queen.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know. That was like a children's are playing and they are thinking what society teach them and everything. So that was thing we in this society we are like especially in India and in small villages people are comparing strength with man and softness with women and uh, and I hope like this will take so much time to cover on and come up the point where we can compare a woman uh, to teach our students okay we this is the ideal lady because generally we compare a man as an idol or inspire them and teach them as you also said if there are so many architectures uh, we heard of but there is less movement in our things. Yeah, that was a little small sharing and thank you for this lecture. It's very helpful to me after that thinking. Yeah.
No, thanks, Harsha. Thanks for sharing your personal anecdote. Yeah, you see, these are things we have to think, and better is to respond, not react. Probably the thing which has changed in me in the past 10 years is now I respond, I don't react. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, these are things we all have to deal. First thing is to be aware. So, yeah, I don't have a definite answer to what you should answer your cousin, but yeah, I'm sure you will figure something out.
Uh, Definitely, I think Kashmira, the whole subject that you've dealt with in a very, very matured way and in a very, I would say, in a very holistic way, actually, because most often the when we say gender bias, it's it's also a bias that it's assumed that it's about only a female gender. The conversation is about that.
Yeah.
And even rightly so, the third gender is still missing because
Yeah.
maybe none of us still know enough about it or the representation of those things. And it's really not about just, making certain conversations. There have been socially evolved perspectives. And at the same time, you can also see the capitalism based industry, consumerism based industry is capitalizing on these biases for a certain way as well.
Exactly, sir.
So it's not really, in fact, sometimes the bias is designed or is forced to design for a certain economic benefit. So it's also in the design world. I would say it is designed on purpose versus designed by ignorance, right?
Yeah.
And these are also segments that you've actually touched upon, both genetically and even algorithmically in computer science also, how certain text stereotypes are associated with a certain perception. And I would personally feel that there is still no one single answer because we need
Exactly.
more studies on this, which can reflect upon this based on different kinds of social constructs and the complex urban societies that we are ending up in, right? Nevertheless, I think it gives us a lot of insights for new possibilities, new areas. I hope our students take it forward as well. But I think our visit, I mean, our invitation is still half because it is still virtual. But we will look forward for you to have here on campus in person
Sir.
and
Sure, sir.
look for more workshops and sessions, maybe on filmmaking as well, with our students here. And we would be very happy and pleased to host you, Kashmira.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such a pleasure. I feel very fortunate to be here, and thank you all for listening. And I would love to keep me posted about whatever research or project you do because I love to. I would love to know what you are doing in terms of the projects and stuff. So feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I can also share my email address. Yeah, it's a journey together. It's not like I'm talking. I don't know. Maybe I don't know anything about aviation design. It's just some things I've noticed I put up as an outsider. So yeah, together we can build the knowledge base and the technologies or the world for a more equitable future. Yeah.
True. No, I think many thanks once again, Kashmira, and thanks to all the audience here, especially our students and those who have joined from outside for this particular session. And we'll definitely look forward to Rope in Kashmira for further interactions as well. So thank you once again, everyone. And with that, we conclude this session at this point. Yeah. Thank you. Take care
Thank you
and
guys. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
bye. Bye, Kashmira. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.